Hey, and welcome back to the Sleepy Biologist. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I love seeing how far our sleepy science family stretches across the globe. Today, we're unearthing some seriously weird animal facts you definitely didn't hear in school. Some are gross, some are cute, and a few are downright unbelievable. Let's get into it. Somewhere in the depths of the ocean, there's a creature that defies one of the most basic laws of life. It refuses to die of old age. Its scientific name is Turritopsis dohrnii, but most people know it by its jaw-dropping nickname, the immortal jellyfish. And no, that's not just clickbait. This little jellyfish, smaller than a pinky nail when fully grown, has baffled scientists with its ability to quite literally reverse its biological clock. Here's how it works. Most jellyfish go through a life cycle that looks something like this. They begin as tiny, free-floating larvae, settle onto a surface and become polyps, kind of like little sea anemones, and eventually morph into their adult jellyfish form, what's called the Medusa stage. Normally that's it. They live out their jellyfish lives until they die, either from natural causes or predators. But not Turritopsis dohrnii. When this jellyfish is injured, stressed, or nearing the end of its life, it has a trick up its sleeve. Well, tentacle. It performs a biological U-turn. Instead of dying, it transforms its adult body back into its juvenile polyp state. Imagine if, instead of dying of old age, you just curled up one day and reverted into a baby version of yourself, with all your cells basically rebooted, and then started aging all over again. That's what this jellyfish does, over and over. The process is called transdifferentiation, and it's something humans are nowhere near capable of doing. It's like stem cell reprogramming in nature. The cells of the jellyfish literally change type. Muscle cells might become nerve cells, for example, allowing the creature to build itself anew from the ground up. No surgeries, no potions, just pure, elegant biology. The only known animal to do it repeatedly and naturally. Now, to be clear, this doesn't make the jellyfish invincible. It can still be eaten by predators, die from disease, or be killed by environmental changes. But barring those external factors, there's no expiration date built into its biology. That's what makes it, in theory, biologically immortal. Scientists are studying Turritopsis dohrnii in hopes of learning more about aging and regeneration. If we could understand the genetic switches it flips during transdifferentiation, who knows what kinds of medical breakthroughs we could unlock? Think. Organ regeneration, reversing cellular aging, maybe even long-term cancer treatments. But even beyond the science, there's something poetic about a creature drifting through the sea, quietly dodging death by turning back the clock. It's easy to miss, transparent, tiny, almost ghost-like. Yet it carries one of the biggest biological mysteries in its fragile body. A tiny creature with the power to outlive time itself. You probably didn't hear about that in school, but now you know. In the dense, humid rainforests of Southeast Asia, hidden under leaves and along the branches of trees, lives a tiny insect with a defense strategy that sounds like it belongs in a science fiction novel. It explodes. Yes, literally explodes. Meet the exploding ant, known scientifically as Colobopsis explodens, a member of a group of ants capable of performing an astonishing act of self-destruction to protect their colony. These ants belong to a rare group within the Campanotini tribe, and while they may be small, their sacrifice is anything but. To understand the full weirdness of this animal, we have to take a closer look at how ant colonies function. In most species, ants operate as a superorganism. Individual ants are like cells in a larger body, each with their own roles. Some are workers, some are soldiers, some are queens. But in the case of Colobopsis explodens, a very specific group of worker ants have evolved to become literal suicide bombers for the good of the colony. These kamikaze ants have oversized glands filled with a sticky, toxic yellow goo. This goo isn't just gross, it's deadly to small invaders, insects, or even other ants who try to attack the colony. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. When these ants are confronted by a threat, they don't bite or sting in the traditional sense. Instead, they clench their abdominal muscles so forcefully that their body wall ruptures, and they burst open. The sticky toxin sprays out from their bodies, gluing the enemy in place and delivering a poisonous hit. The act kills the ant instantly. There's no recovery. It's pure biological altruism. Think about that for a moment. These ants are pre-programmed to commit self-destructive chemical warfare when their colony is under threat. No retreat. No last-minute escape. Just a boom. And goo. The goo itself is fascinating. It's not just sticky, it's also acidic and packed with compounds that can corrode the outer layers of enemy insects. In fact, it smells kind of like curry due to the presence of certain aromatic compounds, although that's not much comfort if you're a termite being smothered by it. This tactic is incredibly effective for defending narrow trails, tunnels, and tree branches, where a single ant can block or disable an intruder long enough for backup to arrive. It's the ultimate sacrifice for the collective. The insect world's version of the bodyguard diving in front of a bullet. Only in this case, the bullet is venomous jelly and the bodyguard is also the weapon. Researchers studying these ants in Borneo observed that the suicidal workers are typically older ants, individuals that have already served most of their useful purpose in the colony. It's kind of like nature's version of retirement, but instead of a peaceful ending, they go out with a bang, literally. The discovery of Colobopsis explodens as a distinct species is relatively recent, formally described in 2018, but exploding behaviour had been observed in other Colobopsis species long before that. Scientists had trouble classifying and studying them because of how remote and inaccessible their habitats often are, and also, frankly, because it's hard to work with ants that explode all over your equipment. Now here's where it gets even more mind-bending. These ants don't explode randomly. The behaviour is highly targeted. They don't just detonate for fun. They have to assess the situation and decide if the threat is serious enough to warrant their own destruction. That level of decision-making in such a tiny brain is still not fully understood. How does an insect make a choice to end its own life for the sake of the colony? How is that instinct hardwired? These are questions researchers are still trying to answer. Their extreme behaviour also challenges how we think about intelligence and sacrifice in the animal kingdom. Humans often view self-sacrifice as a high moral choice, an act of bravery or love. In exploding ants, it's built into the genetic code. It's not emotion-driven, but that doesn't make it any less remarkable. It's a kind of evolutionary loyalty embedded deep in the DNA of a half-inch-long creature. And while they won't be getting medals of honour or parades, the role these ants play in their colonies is critical. Without them, the nests might fall prey to invaders. With them, the colony survives, even if it means losing a few goo-packed warriors along the way. So the next time you think of ants as just picnic nuisances, remember this. Somewhere in the forest, there's a tiny soldier ready to detonate itself in a burst of chemical warfare to protect its home. You definitely didn't learn that in school, but it's happening right now, right beneath our feet. Deep in damp forest floors and shaded gardens, an innocent snail inches along the leaf litter, minding its own business. But something is off. Its eye stalks, usually dull and discreet, are now swollen, pulsating, and striped with bright green, yellow, and red bands. They seem to throb in rhythmic waves, like neon lights advertising some dark carnival. It looks like a Halloween decoration, or maybe something out of a horror movie. In reality, this is a real-life zombie, a snail that's been hijacked by one of the most nightmarish parasites in the natural world. Leucochloridium paradoxum. This parasite is a type of flatworm, or more specifically, a trematode, a class of internal parasites that often use multiple hosts to complete their life cycle. Leucochloridium has one of the strangest, most unsettling strategies of all. It infects snails, takes over their bodies, and turns them into glowing, mindless puppets to increase its odds of being eaten. It doesn't just control the snail, it decorates it like a walking billboard for death. The flatworm begins its life in bird droppings. A bird, the parasite's final host, poops out eggs containing Leucochloridium larvae. These eggs end up on leaves or plants, where they're accidentally eaten by a foraging snail. That's mistake number one. Once inside the snail's digestive system, the eggs hatch and migrate to the snail's tentacles, which function as its eyes. From there, the nightmare really begins. The larvae transform into what's called brood sacs, which grow inside the snail's eye stalks. These sacs pulsate and expand, fill with dozens, sometimes hundreds, of developing parasites. They become colourful and dynamic, not to help the snail, but to attract birds. You read that right. The parasite hijacks the snail's eyes and turns them into living bait. The colours are not random either. The pulsation mimics the wriggling of caterpillars or worms, prey that birds naturally find irresistible. As if that weren't enough, the parasite doesn't just rely on visual trickery. It also messes with the snail's behaviour. Normally, snails avoid sunlight. They're prone to drying out and being seen by predators. But infected snails begin to crawl out into the open, climbing up stalks, leaves, and other high-exposed places they'd normally never go. Why? Because the parasite is controlling the snail's nervous system, manipulating it into putting itself in the perfect spot to be seen and eaten by a bird. The strategy is as horrifying as it is effective. Once a bird spots the pulsing, colourful snail eyes, it pecks at them, often eating just the eye stalks, but sometimes the whole snail. Either way, the parasite gets exactly what it wants. Inside the bird's gut, the flatworm matures into its adult stage, mates, and lays eggs, which are then passed out in the bird's droppings, where they lie in wait for the next snail to wander by. What makes Leucochloridium so remarkable and disturbing is the level of control it exerts over its host. It doesn't just live inside the snail like a passive hitchhiker. It changes the snail's appearance, behaviour, and very instincts. In essence, it overrides the snail's brain, transforming a cautious, slow-moving herbivore into a flashy lure that sacrifices itself for the parasite's reproduction. Scientists studying parasitic mind control, yes, that's a real field of research, use this case as a textbook example of how simple organisms can manipulate more complex ones through biochemistry. The parasite doesn't need intelligence or conscious thought to take over the snail. All it needs is the right mix of hormones, nerve signals, and physical intrusion to become a puppet master. And it doesn't stop there. Some studies suggest that if the snail survives the first attack, the parasite can regrow its brood sacs and start the process over again. It's a repeat performance. The snail might lose an eye stalk, retreat for a while, only to be infected again and sent back into the spotlight. A reusable zombie. This whole gruesome life cycle reveals a darker side of evolution. Nature isn't always pretty or kind. Sometimes it's strategic, brutal, and filled with schemes that would make a horror screenwriter jealous. The parasite doesn't hate the snail. It doesn't have feelings. It's just doing what works. What natural selection has refined over thousands of generations. And in this case, what works is turning eyeballs into hypnotic worm beacons and pushing innocent snails toward their doom. The most unsettling part. This isn't some rare or isolated freak event. Leucochloridium is relatively common in many temperate forests around the world. If you've walked through the woods and seen a snail with a swollen, twitching, multicoloured eye stalk, you've probably just seen one of nature's most disturbing success stories in action. A zombie snail marching obediently toward its final performance. And unless you happen to take a very specific biology elective in college, there's no way this was covered in school. Imagine being able to survive the dead of winter not by staying warm, but by freezing completely, not bundling up, not hibernating in the traditional sense, but literally turning into a frog-shaped ice cube. Your heart stops, your brain activity flatlines, your blood thickens with ice crystals. By all definitions, you are clinically dead, and yet come spring, you thaw out and hop away like nothing happened. It might sound like the plot of a science fiction movie or the dream of a cryogenics lab, but this is real. This is what the North American wood frog, Rana sylvatica, does every single winter. It's one of nature's most mind-blowing biological survival strategies. And it happens quietly in forests and bogs from Georgia to Alaska. Here's how it works. As autumn temperatures begin to drop, the wood frog enters a state of preparation. Unlike other frogs that dig deep into the mud to avoid freezing temperatures, the wood frog does something far more extreme. It stays just beneath the leaf litter, often right on the forest floor, where it's fully exposed to sub-zero temperatures. Then, as ice begins to form around it, the frog does something incredible. It starts to freeze. On purpose. This isn't just superficial cold exposure. The frog allows its body to freeze, not partially but almost entirely. Up to 70% of its body water turns to ice. Ice crystals form beneath the skin, between muscle cells, and even in the abdominal cavity. Its lungs stop breathing. The heart stops beating. There's no circulation, no oxygen delivery. If this happened to a human, we'd suffer catastrophic cellular damage and die within minutes. But the wood frog doesn't die, it waits. The key to this frozen survival trick lies in a very clever biochemical cocktail. As the temperature drops and freezing begins, the frog's liver kicks into high gear, flooding the bloodstream with glucose, and in some species, other sugars like glycerol and urea. These compounds act like natural antifreeze, but not in the way you might expect. They don't stop ice from forming entirely. Instead, they prevent the formation of sharp ice crystals inside the most delicate tissues like the heart, brain, and other organs. Ice forming between cells is survivable. Ice forming inside cells is deadly. So the glucose acts as a cryoprotectant, drawing water out of the cells and helping to stabilize proteins and membranes. This protects the frog's vital organs from damage during the freeze and, just as importantly, during the thaw. When spring arrives and temperatures begin to rise, the thawing process begins. Slowly, the ice within the frog's body melts. Its heart begins to beat again, its lungs begin to draw in oxygen, and within hours, the frog is fully functional. It can hop, eat, and mate, as if nothing had happened. It's a true resurrection. There's no permanent damage. The frog doesn't have memory loss or frostbite. Its tissues have been preserved like a living popsicle and reactivated. Scientists have been studying this phenomenon for decades, not only because it's fascinating, but because it holds potential clues for medical and technological breakthroughs. If a frog can survive freezing solid and recover, could we one day preserve human organs for transplant in the same way? Could we develop better ways to store cells, blood, or even entire bodies? Could this be a key to human cryopreservation? Researchers have already learned that the frog's high glucose levels are critical, but also that its cells produce specialized heat shock proteins and ice nucleating agents that manage the freezing process. The freezing isn't chaotic, it's highly controlled. It happens from the outside in, giving the frog time to protect itself at the cellular level before its core temperature drops too low. What's even more amazing is the range of temperatures wood frogs can survive. In Alaska, wood frogs have been documented surviving temperatures as low as -16 degrees Celsius, around 3 degrees Fahrenheit, for weeks at a time. These are not tropical frogs hiding out in warm caves. These are frogs that freeze completely under snowpack, with no heartbeat, no brain activity, and no respiration, and yet bounce back with full function once the environment allows. And it's not just a single freezing cycle. Studies show that wood frogs can survive multiple freeze-thaw events over the course of a winter. They don't freeze once and hope for the best. They thaw during warm spells, hop around, refreeze again, and repeat the process several times. It's not just a survival mechanism. It's a normal part of their life cycle. This adaptation has evolved specifically for the challenging environments where these frogs live. In places where winter arrives fast and snow can linger well into the spring, burrowing deep enough to avoid the cold isn't always an option. So rather than avoiding winter, the wood frog meets it head-on and outlasts it by becoming, in essence, temporarily dead. There's something oddly comforting and eerie about this strategy, the idea that life can pause so completely and then restart with no loss, no trauma. It challenges our definition of life and death. When your heart stops and your body is full of ice, are you alive? Or is life defined by the potential to return? The wood frog doesn't care about philosophical questions. It just does what works. And what works, in this case, is a biochemical symphony of sugar, cold tolerance, and evolutionary genius. It's not flashy. It's not loud. But beneath the snow, under a rotting log, lies a frozen miracle waiting to thaw. You almost certainly didn't hear about this in biology class. But you should have. Because somewhere out there right now, probably in your backyard if you live in the right part of the world, a tiny frog is doing what scientists still can't fully explain, cheating death with every winter that passes. Beneath the shimmering surface of warm coastal waters, hidden among coral reefs and seagrass beds, lives a creature that seems unremarkable at first glance, no bigger than your finger, often translucent, sometimes brightly coloured. But don't let its size fool you. This tiny marine crustacean is armed with one of the most extraordinary weapons in the animal kingdom. It's called the pistol shrimp, or snapping shrimp, and it doesn't just make noise. It snaps so fast and so powerfully, it creates an underwater bubble bullet that momentarily reaches the temperature of the sun and produces a shockwave strong enough to stun or even kill prey. This isn't a science fiction weapon, it's biological reality. The pistol shrimp's claw is no ordinary claw. One of its two claws is massively oversized, modified through evolution into a kind of biological cannon. When the shrimp spots prey, typically small fish, crabs, or other shrimp, it cocks this claw open like a spring-loaded trap and then slams it shut with lightning speed. But it's not the physical impact of the claw that does the damage. It's what happens in the water around it. The rapid snap forces water out from the claw at such high velocity, estimates suggest speeds of around 60 miles per hour, that it creates a phenomenon known as cavitation. Cavitation occurs when a liquid is forced to move so quickly that it drops pressure dramatically, forming a void or a bubble. This bubble isn't filled with air, it's essentially a vacuum, and it lasts only microseconds. But what happens next is where the real magic begins. The bubble collapses in on itself with tremendous force, creating a shock wave and generating heat spikes of up to 4,700 degrees Celsius, about 8,500 degrees Fahrenheit. For a tiny instant, far less than a blink of an eye, it's hotter than the surface of the sun. This collapsing bubble also emits a flash of light. That's right. The pistol shrimp doesn't just shoot underwater, it shoots with light. The flash is not visible to the naked eye, but it can be detected with sensitive scientific equipment. It's an example of sonoluminescence, where sound energy creates a tiny burst of light. To this day, scientists don't fully understand the precise physics behind sonoluminescence, which means the pistol shrimp is not only a biological marvel, but a mystery that still baffles physicists. The resulting shockwave from this imploding bubble is strong enough to stun, injure, or even kill small marine creatures. If the prey doesn't die instantly, it's usually knocked unconscious long enough for the shrimp to scurry forward, grab it with its smaller claw, and pull it into its burrow to feast. Now, the pistol shrimp isn't just a mindless shooter. It's a highly social and strategic animal. In some species, pistol shrimp form colonies with complex social structures, including communal burrows and even division of labour. Others pair up with gobies, forming one of the ocean's most charming mutualistic relationships. The shrimp digs and maintains a burrow that both animals live in, while the goby, which has excellent vision, acts as a lookout. If danger approaches, the goby twitches its tail against the shrimp, warning it to stay inside. If the coast is clear, the shrimp resumes its work. It's like a blind gunslinger working with a sharp-sighted partner. You might think that all this snapping would make the pistol shrimp easy to find, and in a way it does, but not by sight. In fact, snapping shrimp are often heard before they're seen. Entire reefs can echo with the sound of these tiny explosions. Submariners and oceanographers know this well. Snapping shrimp are one of the loudest biological sources of noise in the ocean. In fact, a dense population of pistol shrimp can create enough background noise to disrupt sonar and underwater communication systems. During World War II, Allied submarines used areas filled with snapping shrimp to mask their positions from enemy sonar. It's one of the rare cases where a crustacean unintentionally participated in military strategy. Despite their firepower, pistol shrimp have natural enemies. Some are eaten by larger fish, octopuses, and even humans in some regions. But their main line of defense remains that mighty claw, not just for hunting, but for territory disputes and self-defense. Fights between rival pistol shrimp can be fast and fierce, with both shrimp snapping at each other in rapid succession. These duels often end with one shrimp backing off or losing a claw, although in time, they can regenerate it. Interestingly, juvenile pistol shrimp don't start off with their iconic weapon. As they grow, one of their claws becomes dominant and begins to enlarge. If they lose their snapping claw, the remaining smaller claw will start transforming into a new snapping weapon. It's a case of biological backup engineering, always ready to replace the cannon with another if necessary. The anatomy of the claw itself is a marvel of evolutionary design. It has a plunger-like part called the dactyl, which fits tightly into a groove in the claw. When cocked, the dactyl locks into place. The shrimp then uses muscles to build up tension, and when it finally releases the lock, the claw snaps shut with a force unmatched by any other animal of its size. What makes the pistol shrimp's weaponry so fascinating is the way it combines brute force with physics phenomena usually studied in laboratories. It turns sound, water pressure, and light into tools for survival. It doesn't have to chase down its prey. It doesn't have to wrestle or outswim them. It just aims, fires, and lets physics do the rest. And perhaps the most mind-blowing part of all, the pistol shrimp's claw snap measures up to 218 decibels, louder than a gunshot, louder than a rocket launch, and technically louder than a jet engine. In water, sound travels faster and more efficiently, so the shrimp's sonic weapon is even more devastating to the animals nearby. The pistol shrimp reminds us that nature doesn't always save its most powerful tools for the biggest animals. Sometimes, the most astonishing firepower comes in the smallest packages, a David with a cannon for an arm. You probably never saw it coming. But down there in the coral rubble, the pistol shrimp is locked, loaded, and ready to blow you away. Literally. In the silent, moss-covered cracks of a boulder, in a thin film of water clinging to a leaf, in the sediment of a deep-sea trench, or even floating amid the harsh vacuum of outer space, there exists a creature so small you could fit hundreds of them on a grain of sand, and yet so tough that it's outlasted mass extinctions, cataclysmic radiation, and the vacuum of space itself. It's called a tardigrade, but it's often better known by its nickname, the water bear. Tardigrades are microscopic, 8-legged invertebrates with pudgy bodies and a strange lumbering gait that looks almost like slow-motion crawling. Measuring between 0.1 and 1.5 millimeters in length, they're invisible to the naked eye, yet their resilience is unmatched by anything else on the planet. In fact, they are the closest thing we know to being biologically immortal, not in the sense of living forever, but in their ability to survive conditions that no other form of life on Earth can endure. They've been found on mountaintops and at the bottom of the ocean, in hot springs, polar ice, desert sands, and the fur of insects. Scientists have revived tardigrades that had been frozen for decades. They've exposed them to crushing pressures 6 times greater than those in the deepest ocean trench, to temperatures as low as minus 272 degrees Celsius, just above 0 degrees Celsius, absolute zero, and as high as 150 degrees Celsius. They've blasted them with deadly doses of radiation, hundreds of times the lethal level for humans, and even strapped them to the outside of spacecraft, exposing them to the radiation and vacuum of space. Not only did many survive, they went on to reproduce afterward. So how is this possible? How can a creature so fragile-looking and microscopic be the ultimate survivalist? The answer lies in their ability to enter a state called cryptobiosis, a kind of suspended animation in which almost all biological functions come to a complete halt when faced with extreme environmental stress, dehydration, freezing, radiation, or even lack of oxygen. The tardigrade pulls in its legs, contracts into a compact barrel-shaped form called a ton, and slows its metabolism to less than 0.01% of normal. In this state, it can survive without water for decades, maybe even centuries. No heartbeat, no breathing, no reproduction. Just quiet endurance, waiting for better times. To survive drying out, a process called desiccation, tardigrades produce unique protective proteins, including trehalose, a sugar that replaces water in their cells and prevents the collapse of their internal structures. They also manufacture proteins known as tardigrade-specific intrinsically disordered proteins, TDPs, which form glass-like matrices around their organs and DNA, protecting them from physical damage as they dry out. Essentially, they become a glass-encased version of themselves, biologically paused, perfectly preserved. But desiccation is just one threat. The real showstopper is how they handle radiation and DNA damage. Tardigrades produce a special protein called DSUP, short for damage suppressor, which binds to their DNA and shields it from harm, especially from ionizing radiation and oxidative stress. In human cells, exposure to that much radiation would cause irreparable mutations. In tardigrades, DSUP helps repair the DNA before it can cause lasting damage. It's like a microscopic emergency response system, and scientists have even successfully inserted the DSUP gene into human cells in the lab, dramatically increasing their radiation resistance. The discovery of tardigrades dates back to 1773, when German zoologist Johann August Ephraim Goeser first described them as little water bears. A few years later, the name tardigrada was coined, meaning slow stepper. And while their plump, bear-like appearance and clumsy crawl have made them strangely adorable to researchers and internet fans alike, these creatures are more than just cute. They are evolutionary masterpieces. They've been around for at least 500 million years, long before dinosaurs ever walked the Earth. They survived all 5 of Earth's major mass extinctions. They didn't just adapt to changing conditions, they transcended them by mastering the art of waiting. When things get bad, they stop. When the environment stabilizes, they come back to life. This strategy is so effective that some scientists have proposed that tardigrades could be used as models for long-term space travel. If we could engineer human cells or biological payloads to enter a cryptobiotic state like the tardigrade, we might one day send living organisms across light years, surviving time and radiation in deep space. In a sense, tardigrades are already the universe's test run for life beyond Earth. In 2019, Israel's Bereshit lunar lander crash-landed on the moon. On board were thousands of tardigrades, preserved in their ton state. While there's no evidence they survived the crash, their presence sparked the wild but real speculation that tardigrades might now be clinging to life on the moon, the first accidental interplanetary colonizers. Even more strangely, some researchers have suggested that tardigrades challenge the idea of what life even is. When they are in cryptobiosis, they exhibit no measurable signs of life, no metabolic activity, no response to stimuli, no movement, yet they are not dead. They can remain in this suspended state for years, and then, with a few drops of water, rehydrate, reawaken, and crawl away. It's as if they exist in limbo, beyond life, beyond death, immune to time. And in that moment, that miraculous revival, something happens that defies everything we think we know about biology. Life returns, not from the brink of death, but from a state so close to non-existence that we have no words for it. Scientists sometimes describe them as living fossils or biological Lazaruses. But maybe the best way to describe them is this: time travelers, not in science fiction, but in the truest biological sense. If you ever collect moss or scrape lichen from a rock and examine it under a microscope, you might just find one. There it will be, tiny, slow and indestructible, a creature that's seen more of Earth's history than we ever will. And if you dry it out, seal it away, and come back in 50 years, it might still be there, waiting, curled into its tongue like a secret time capsule of life itself. You almost certainly never learned about tardigrades in school, but maybe you should have. Because these microscopic marvels remind us that life doesn't just find a way. Sometimes it stops completely, survives the impossible, and waits patiently for the right moment to begin again. Somewhere in the dense tropical forests of Southeast Asia, a faint rustle in the leaf litter goes unnoticed. A predator has passed nearby, a snake, maybe, and yet nothing lunges, nothing flees. The forest seems still, but down on the forest floor, almost invisible against the background of twigs and fallen leaves, something extraordinary just happened. An insect vanished into thin air. Not by running, not by flying, but by ceasing to visually exist. This isn't magic. It's the work of one of the most effective camouflage experts in the natural world, the leaf insect. At first glance, you might not even recognize them as insects. Their bodies mimic the exact shape, color, and even the texture of real leaves, complete with fake veins, browned edges, and subtle asymmetries that make them appear perfectly imperfect. Some species even have fake bite marks in their leaves, as if a hungry caterpillar had taken a nibble. It's not just disguise, it's deception. Evolution sculpted them with exquisite precision, not only to blend in, but to actively mislead the eyes of predators, and even the occasional curious human. Leaf insects belong to the order Phasmatodea, a group that also includes stick insects. But while stick insects resemble twigs, leaf insects take mimicry to a higher level, something scientists call mimesis, or masquerade. While camouflage helps an animal blend into its surroundings, mimesis helps it be mistaken for something else entirely. In this case, a non-living object, a leaf. What's most mind-blowing is that this illusion works in 3 dimensions and from multiple angles. When they move, they don't just crawl or march across the branch. They sway, gently rocking side to side, imitating the natural motion of a leaf in the breeze. The effect is so convincing that even seasoned biologists sometimes overlook them in their natural habitat. This level of disguise evolved as a defense mechanism in ecosystems teeming with visual predators, birds, reptiles, and amphibians, all of which are highly dependent on sight to locate prey. In the arms race of survival, leaf insects didn't develop claws or venom. They didn't learn to flee or to fight. Instead, they vanished from view altogether, becoming living shadows in the undergrowth. Some species have wings that look like broad, veined leaf blades, sometimes with a slight green gloss that catches dappled light just the way real leaves do. Others have small, curled antennae that resemble leaf tips. Their legs are flattened and serrated, contributing to the illusion of leafy edges. Even the joints of their legs may have colour variations that mimic the browned, aging portions of dying foliage. Every inch of their body serves a purpose: to disappear into the world they inhabit. And it doesn't stop there. Leaf insects don't just passively wait to be overlooked. They sometimes take their deception a step further by aligning themselves with real leaves. When resting, they position their legs and antennae precisely, like a leaf suspended in stillness. If touched or threatened, Some species drop to the ground and lie completely still, blending in with the leaf litter. It's not a panicked reaction. It's a calculated freeze that says, I am nothing more than dead plant matter. Their mimicry is so refined that even their hatching behavior contributes to their survival. Leaf insect eggs resemble seeds, often dark, with tiny ridges or seed coat-like textures, and are dropped to the forest floor. Some species scatter them, while others hide them in bark or moss. In many environments, ants mistake these eggs for food and carry them into their nests. But instead of being consumed, the eggs remain intact in the protection of the ant colony until they hatch. The young nymphs emerge and climb into the canopy to begin their quiet lives as green ghosts among the leaves. But evolution doesn't stay static. In some species, colour isn't just green. Leaf insects can come in autumnal shades, yellow, reddish-brown, and even a patchy mix that mimics a leaf halfway through decomposition. In some regions, where dry seasons turn the forest brown, these insects shift to match. It's still unclear whether this is due to environmental triggers, genetic variation, or some combination of both, but the result is staggering. They adapt not just in form, but in seasonal fashion. Despite their brilliance, leaf insects are not well known. Their secretive nature and remote habitats make them difficult to study in the wild. Many species remain undiscovered or undescribed by science. In fact, it's believed that dozens of species may still be hiding in plain sight, quite literally. And given how rapidly deforestation is destroying tropical habitats, some of these master mimics may vanish before we ever get the chance to observe them. But when we do see them, truly see them, we're reminded of nature's creative genius. These aren't just bugs playing dress-up. They are examples of evolution's precision engineering, the result of millions of years of survival pressures selecting for finer and finer details. And the details aren't just visual. Some leaf insects even use chemical camouflage, absorbing odours from their surroundings to mask their scent from predators with acute olfactory senses. The fact that all of this is accomplished by an animal without a central brain the way humans have, relying on instinct and inherited behaviour, makes it even more astonishing. There's no conscious intent. The leaf insect isn't trying to look like a leaf. It just does, because those that didn't were eaten, and those that did survived to reproduce. From a human perspective, the leaf insect is a living paradox. It exists so perfectly within its environment that it almost ceases to exist altogether. It is real, yet invisible. Alive, yet unnoticed. And perhaps that's what makes it such a profound symbol of the natural world, that the most extraordinary marvels often go unseen, not because they're rare, but because they're so perfectly adapted that we overlook them entirely. So next time you look at a leaf in the forest, remember, it might just be looking back. Imagine walking through the darkened underbrush of a rainforest just after sunset. The air is thick with humidity, the buzzing of insects, and the occasional call of a tree frog echoing in the canopy above. Suddenly, a faint flicker of greenish light appears near your feet, glowing softly like a fallen ember. You bend down to investigate and realize it's alive. Not fire, not a trick of the eye, but a beetle, softly pulsing with its own internal light. This tiny glowing marvel is a real-life example of bioluminescence, one of nature's strangest and most beautiful adaptations. Bioluminescence, the ability of a living organism to produce light, is one of the most captivating and otherworldly features in the animal kingdom. It's not just a cool trick. It's a biochemical phenomenon that evolved independently many times across different species. While most commonly associated with deep-sea creatures and fireflies, bioluminescence can be found in fungi, algae, jellyfish, squid, insects, and even some species of sharks. It's a biological magic show, but with a hard science behind it. A chemical reaction involving a light-emitting molecule called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase. When luciferin reacts with oxygen, it emits light. This reaction can be controlled by the organism, turning it on or off, changing its brightness, and even altering the pattern of its glow. What's incredible is that this light is cold. It produces almost no heat, unlike a light bulb or a flame. It's an extremely efficient use of energy, evolved not for warmth or comfort, but for survival, communication, and deception. Let's start with the classic case: fireflies. These enchanting beetles use bioluminescence primarily for mating. Males fly through the air at night, flashing specific rhythmic patterns of light to attract females of their species. Each species has its own unique flash pattern, a kind of Morse code of the insect world. Females watch from below and flash back if they're interested. But things get more complicated. Some female fireflies of the Photuris genus mimic the flash patterns of other species to lure males in, not for mating, but for ambush. Once the unsuspecting male approaches, she eats him. In this context, bioluminescence becomes not just a dating tool, but a deadly lure. But fireflies are just the tip of the bioluminescent iceberg. Travel down into the depths of the ocean, past where sunlight can reach, and you'll enter a world where light is currency, and survival depends on your ability to use it. In these lightless waters, up to 90% of the creatures you encounter are bioluminescent in some form. It's no exaggeration to say that the deep sea glows with life. Take the anglerfish, for example, a predator straight out of a nightmare. This fish has a long, rod-like extension growing from its forehead, ending in a bulb that glows with blue-green light. It dangles this luminous lure in front of its gaping mouth, attracting smaller fish and invertebrates like a deep-sea fishing pole. Once something comes close, it strikes. It's the underwater equivalent of a Venus flytrap. But the anglerfish doesn't create the light itself. It relies on a symbiotic relationship with bioluminescent bacteria that live in its lure. In fact, many marine species outsource their glow in this way, harboring colonies of bacteria that produce light in exchange for a safe home and nutrients. Then there are creatures like the Atolla jellyfish, which deploys light not to hunt, but to escape. When threatened, it flashes in a spiraling, pulsing pattern, like an underwater alarm, potentially attracting larger predators to scare off the original attacker. It's like calling the cops when you're being mugged. A dazzling, desperate signal flare. Bioluminescence also plays a defensive role in creatures like the vampire squid, which can eject a cloud of glowing mucus to distract or blind predators. Others, like certain species of shrimp and worms, use glowing chemicals as decoys, leaving behind trails of light to confuse anything chasing them. And not all bioluminescence is about animals. Some species of fungi, like Panella stypticus and Mycena chlorophyos, glow faintly in the forest at night, giving rise to eerie names like foxfire or fairy fire. While the exact reason for this glow is still debated, one theory suggests it may help attract insects to spread their spores. Even certain dinoflagellates, microscopic marine plankton, are bioluminescent. When disturbed by movement, such as a swimming fish or a passing boat, they produce a trail of glowing blue light. This phenomenon creates sparkling waves, glowing shorelines, and what looks like a sea full of stars. In places like Puerto Rico's Mosquito Bay or the Maldives, bioluminescent bays attract tourists from around the world to witness the surreal beauty of glowing water that sparkles under your fingertips. But it's not just about beauty. Bioluminescence tells a larger story about evolution. It's one of the clearest examples of convergent evolution, the independent development of the same trait in unrelated lineages. Nature keeps reinventing light. Different organisms evolved entirely different chemical pathways to produce it, which suggests one remarkable truth. Glowing is a really useful survival strategy. And humans are just beginning to scratch the surface of what we can do with it. Bioluminescence has inspired advances in medical imaging, environmental monitoring, and even forensic science. One version of the luciferase enzyme has been engineered into mice to make their cells glow, allowing scientists to track the spread of cancer or the expression of specific genes in real time. It's being used to detect pollutants in water and food. And yes, people are experimenting with glowing plants as sustainable nightlights and glow-in-the-dark art using genetically modified bacteria. Still, there's something fundamentally poetic about it. In the darkest places on Earth, deep in the ocean, inside a rotting log, or under the forest canopy at midnight, life refuses to be hidden. It glows, sometimes in bursts of communication, sometimes in camouflage, sometimes just as a side effect of chemical processes that serve other functions. But it glows all the same, quietly defying the darkness. Bioluminescence is one of those natural phenomena that seems too magical to be real, and yet it is, not rare but common, not fantasy, but fact. It reminds us that the natural world is still full of wonder, still brimming with secrets. The next time you see a firefly rise from a field at dusk, or hear about a glowing bay in some faraway ocean, know that you are witnessing a kind of alchemy, not myth, not metaphor, but the living light of the earth. Beneath the shimmering surface of the tropical Indo-Pacific seas, an extraordinary master of disguise glides silently over coral reefs and sandy bottoms. This creature is unlike any other octopus you've ever seen. Its body is slender and elongated, and it moves with the graceful undulation of an underwater dancer. But the real marvel isn't its movement. It's what it can become. This is the mimic octopus, a cephalopod that has fascinated scientists and underwater explorers alike since its discovery in the late 1990s. Unlike most octopuses, which rely on camouflage and sudden jets of ink to escape predators, the mimic octopus goes far beyond blending in. It transforms itself into other animals, sometimes several in the course of a single encounter, imitating the shape, movement, and behavior of more dangerous or unpalatable sea creatures. It's not just disguise, it's deception, performance art, and survival strategy all rolled into one. The mimic octopus's ability to impersonate multiple species is unlike anything else in the animal kingdom. When threatened, it can flatten its body and spread its arms wide, forming shapes and postures that resemble venomous flatfish, sea snakes, lionfish, and even jellyfish. By doing so, it sends a clear message to would-be predators. I'm not prey, I'm something you'd rather avoid. One of the most iconic impersonations is that of the banded sea snake, a venomous reptile with distinctive black and white rings. The mimic octopus not only changes its coloration to match the snake's bands, but also lifts two of its arms and waves them in a serpentine fashion. eerily replicating the snake's sinuous movements. This imitation is so convincing that predators who would normally prey on octopuses are fooled into steering clear. In other moments, the mimic octopus takes on the guise of a lionfish, a venomous fish with long, striped spines that can inflict painful stings. It flares its arms and spreads its webbing, mimicking the lionfish's spiky silhouette to deter attacks. Sometimes, it even resembles a flatfish, flattening its body and moving in slow, deliberate undulations that perfectly replicate the flatfish's movement across the seabed. The mimic octopus's transformations are not random. Researchers have observed that the octopus chooses which animal to impersonate based on the specific predators in its environment. In areas where venomous sea snakes are common, it favors that impersonation. Where lionfish are the dominant threat, it mimics those. This indicates a remarkable level of awareness and behavioral flexibility. The octopus is not only a mimic, but a strategist, adapting its performance to best fit the dangers it faces. Underpinning this incredible mimicry is the octopus's extraordinary control over its body. Like other octopuses, the mimic octopus can rapidly change the color and texture of its skin using specialized pigment cells called chromatophores, leucophores, and iridophores. But it also uses its arms and body shape to sculpt itself into convincing three-dimensional models of other animals, adjusting posture, arm positioning, and movement with remarkable precision. This ability requires an advanced nervous system and keen sensory perception, allowing the mimic octopus to interpret its surroundings and tailor its act accordingly. The mimic octopus is also a master of multitasking. It can switch between different impersonations in quick succession, confusing predators and potential threats by constantly changing its identity. This fluidity is not just defensive, it's also a tool for exploration and communication. Some scientists believe the mimic octopus's abilities might help it access food or avoid competition by passing as other species in its complex coral reef environment. Despite its talents, the mimic octopus is a vulnerable animal. It lives in coastal waters that are increasingly threatened by pollution, habitat destruction, and climate change. Its reliance on coral reefs, among the most endangered ecosystems on Earth, means that protecting the mimic octopus is intertwined with broader conservation efforts to preserve marine biodiversity. The mimic octopus challenges many of our assumptions about intelligence and adaptation in the animal kingdom. Its mimicry is not simple camouflage. It is dynamic, deliberate, and context-sensitive, suggesting a level of cognitive sophistication rarely seen in invertebrates. It raises questions about how animals perceive their environment and how much they can plan and strategize in moments of danger. For divers lucky enough to spot one in the wild, watching a mimic octopus is like witnessing a shape-shifting magician performing an elaborate illusion beneath the waves. One moment, it may seem like a harmless fish, the next, a venomous snake, and the next, something entirely different, all to stay one step ahead in the deadly game of survival. In the grand tapestry of life's weird and wonderful adaptations, the mimic octopus stands out as a true marvel. It's a living reminder that evolution's toolbox is vast and imaginative, and that sometimes the best way to survive is not just to hide, but to become something else entirely. Deep beneath the surface of the world's oceans, in some of the darkest, most oxygen-deprived corners, lives a creature so bizarre and seemingly alien that it challenges everything we thought we knew about animal life. The zombie worm, or Osedax, is a tiny, translucent, and almost otherworldly annelid worm with a life strategy that would make even the most hardened scavenger blush. But rather than prowling coral reefs or chasing prey, these worms have carved out a niche in the most macabre of all environments: the decaying bones of dead whales lying on the ocean floor. When a whale dies and its massive body sinks into the abyss, it sets off a slow-motion ecological event known as a whale fall. For months and even years, this fallen giant becomes an entire ecosystem unto itself. Creatures gather from miles around to feast on the flesh, skin, and blubber, while scavengers strip the carcass down to the skeleton. But once the whale's soft tissues have disappeared, what remains are its dense, nutrient-rich bones, an unlikely treasure trove on the barren seabed. This is where the zombie worms come in. Unlike most animals that consume tissue or detritus, zombie worms have a specialized and gruesome diet. They literally eat bone. But not by chewing or biting. These worms secrete powerful acids to dissolve the calcium phosphate that makes up the whale's skeleton, allowing them to burrow deep into the bones. Inside these tunnels, the worms live and grow, extracting nutrients that no other organism can access. Their name, zombie worm, reflects their association with death and decay, but also the eerie, almost spectral appearance of their gelatinous bodies emerging from the bone's surface. Remarkably, zombie worms lack a mouth and digestive tract. Instead, they rely on a symbiotic relationship with bacteria housed within their root-like extensions that penetrate the bone. These bacteria break down the complex compounds in the bone, such as collagen and lipids, into usable nutrients for the worm. This partnership between worm and bacteria is a prime example of nature's ingenuity, enabling an animal to thrive in a place utterly hostile to most life. The life cycle of a zombie worm is as fascinating as its feeding habits. The adult females are often much larger and more conspicuous, anchored firmly to the bones with their specialized root structures. Males, however, are tiny and rarely seen. They live inside the female's body in a form of sexual parasitism, essentially existing as microscopic sperm packets. This unusual reproductive strategy ensures that when a female worm colonizes a new whale fall, she already carries the means to reproduce without needing to find a mate in the vast, deep ocean. Whale falls themselves are ecological hotspots that support a diverse community of organisms, from scavenging hagfish and amphipods to specialized clams, crabs, and even sharks. Each stage of the decomposition creates unique niches, and the zombie worms play a crucial role in recycling the last nutrients locked in the whale's skeleton, slowly transforming the bones into resources that fuel new life. The existence of zombie worms also raises questions about how life adapts to extreme environments and utilizes resources we would never consider edible. They remind us that death in the natural world is not an end, but a transformation, a shift of energy and matter that sustains ecosystems, even in the most unlikely places. Scientists continue to study these worms not only to understand deep-sea ecology, but also to glean insights into symbiosis, biochemical adaptations, and the potential applications of their bone-degrading abilities. Could their acid-secreting processes inspire new technologies for waste management or medical treatments? Could their unique biology help us better understand how life persists in harsh conditions, even beyond our planet? Despite their grotesque-sounding name and eerie lifestyle, zombie worms are a testament to life's resilience and creativity. In the dark, cold depths of the ocean, where few creatures dare to venture, they transform death into opportunity, silently breaking down the bones of giants to feed themselves and countless others. Next time you think about the vast oceans and the mysteries hidden beneath the waves, Remember the zombie worm, a tiny translucent scavenger turning whale skeletons into the foundation for new life. Proof that even in death, there is a strange and beautiful cycle of survival. Among the many wonders of the natural world, few creatures challenge our perceptions quite like the axolotl. This unusual amphibian, native to the lakes and canals of Mexico City, seems almost like a creature from a fantasy story rather than reality. With its frilly external gills, wide smile and perpetual smiling face, the axolotl is not just adorable, it's a biological enigma that has fascinated scientists for centuries. Unlike most amphibians, which undergo a metamorphosis from larva to adult, transforming from water-breathing creatures with gills to air-breathing adults with lungs, the axolotl remains forever in its juvenile form, a phenomenon known as neoteny. While other salamanders lose their gills and develop lungs to live on land, axolotls keep their feathery gills and stay aquatic their entire lives. They live underwater, breathing through their external gills, but they can also gulp air using rudimentary lungs if needed. This ability to remain in a larval state while reaching sexual maturity without metamorphosing is one of the animal kingdom's great exceptions. The axolotl's neotenic lifestyle is not just a quirky biological footnote. It has important implications for its survival and adaptation. By staying in the water, it avoids some of the dangers faced by terrestrial salamanders, like predation and habitat changes on land. Its aquatic environment also shapes its behavior and diet. Axolotls are carnivorous, feeding on small fish, worms, insects, and even small amphibians. Their wide mouths and sharp teeth help them snap up prey with quick, suction-like movements. One of the most remarkable traits of the axolotl is its extraordinary regenerative abilities. If an axolotl loses a limb, tail, or even parts of vital organs like the heart or brain, it can regrow them perfectly, complete with skin, muscles, bones, and nerves. This regenerative power surpasses that of most vertebrates and has made axolotls a crucial subject of scientific research. Understanding the molecular and cellular mechanisms behind their regeneration could pave the way for advances in human medicine, potentially helping to heal injuries, regenerate damaged tissues, or treat degenerative diseases. Scientists have discovered that axolotls achieve this feat by activating specialized cells near the injury site called blastema cells, which behave like stem cells. These cells proliferate and differentiate into the various tissues needed to reconstruct the lost body part. What's even more fascinating is that axolotls can do this without forming scars, which typically inhibit regeneration in other animals. Their immune system and cellular environment are uniquely tuned to support this regenerative process. Despite their incredible abilities, wild axolotls are critically endangered. Once abundant in Lake Xochimilco and Lake Chalco in Mexico, their natural habitats have been devastated by urban expansion, pollution, and invasive species like tilapia and carp. These invasive fish compete for food and prey on young axolotls, further threatening their survival. Conservation efforts now focus on habitat restoration, captive breeding, and public education to protect these living relics of evolutionary history. Axolotls have also captured human imagination beyond the scientific community. They appear in folklore and symbolism in Mexico, often representing transformation and regeneration. In popular culture, their quirky appearance and unique biology have earned them a devoted following among pet enthusiasts and nature lovers worldwide. They remind us that nature doesn't always follow our expectations, and that sometimes the the most extraordinary creatures live quietly beneath the surface, hidden from plain sight. The axolotl story is a testament to resilience, adaptation, and the endless mysteries of life. It challenges our definitions of growth and maturity, showing us that in nature, there is more than one way to thrive. Whether regenerating a lost limb or simply gliding serenely through the waters of a shrinking lake, the axolotl is a living symbol of nature's creativity and tenacity. Next time you encounter images or stories about this remarkable amphibian, remember that behind its gentle smile lies an ancient evolutionary marvel, one that continues to inspire scientists, conservationists, and dreamers alike. In the vast and varied world of animals, communication comes in countless forms: songs, dances, colours, scents, and even vibrations. But few creatures use sound quite like the lyrebird, a remarkable Australian native that takes mimicry to an extraordinary and almost surreal level. To hear a lyrebird sing is to experience one of nature's most astonishing vocal performances. A complex, layered concert of sounds that both amazes and mystifies. The lyrebird's song is not just a simple call, it's an elaborate, sophisticated imitation of the environment around it. What sets the lyrebird apart is its ability to mimic nearly any sound it hears, with uncanny precision. Its repertoire includes not only the songs of other bird species, but also mechanical noises like camera shutters, chainsaws, car alarms, and even human voices. Imagine strolling through an Australian forest and hearing what sounds like a camera clicking, a dog barking, or a chainsaw revving, only to realise the source is a single bird hidden in the underbrush. There are two species of lyrebird: the superb lyrebird and Albert's lyrebird. The superb lyrebird is the more famous and widespread of the two, often celebrated for its extraordinary tail feathers shaped like a lyre, the ancient Greek stringed instrument from which its name derives. During courtship displays, male lyrebirds fan out their tail feathers over their heads like a dazzling musical instrument, combining visual spectacle with their incredible vocal mimicry to attract females. The lyrebird's vocal ability is enabled by its highly developed syrinx, the bird equivalent of a vocal cord system, which allows it to produce an astonishing range of sounds. But the story of the lyrebird's mimicry goes beyond mere anatomy. These birds learn their sounds through social interaction and environmental exposure. Young lyrebirds listen carefully to the calls of neighbouring birds and even human-made noises, practicing and perfecting their imitations over several years before reaching maturity. Interestingly, lyrebirds don't just mimic for fun. Their elaborate songs serve critical purposes in communication, territory defence, and mate attraction. Males with more complex and diverse repertoires tend to be more successful at attracting females, suggesting that vocal ability is a sign of fitness and intelligence. The mimicry can also confuse and deter rival males or predators, making the lyrebird's vocal trickery a powerful tool in its survival arsenal. Scientists have documented lyrebirds incorporating the sounds of human activity, from car alarms to camera clicks and even the chainsaws used by loggers, into their songs. This adaptability highlights the lyrebird's impressive capacity to learn and respond to a changing environment, even one increasingly dominated by humans. However, it also raises concerns about how human noise pollution might impact wildlife behaviour and communication. The lyrebird's mimicry is a testament to nature's capacity for creativity and adaptation. Its songs are not just sounds but stories, vivid snapshots of the environment, told in a language that combines biology, culture, and the unexpected echoes of human presence. This ability to absorb and transform sound blurs the line between the natural and artificial worlds, reminding us of the deep interconnectedness between animals and their habitats. Beyond their vocal talents, lyrebirds are ground dwellers that spend much of their time scratching through leaf litter to find insects, spiders, and other invertebrates. Their strong legs and sharp claws make them excellent foragers, and their presence plays an important role in the ecosystem by helping control insect populations and dispersing seeds. The lyrebird's life and song invite us to pause and listen closely to the hidden symphonies of nature. In a world often filled with noise and distraction, the lyrebird's performance reminds us that animals are not just passive inhabitants of their environments, but active participants, observers, learners, and performers in the grand theatre of life. Whether echoing the calls of other birds or the sounds of human machines, the lyrebird's voice is a vivid reminder that nature is full of surprises, creativity, and endless wonders. It challenges us to hear more deeply, to appreciate the subtle conversations happening all around us, and to marvel at the extraordinary talents of the animal kingdom. In the dense forests and hidden valleys of Central and South America lives a creature so peculiar it seems to belong more to the realm of fantasy than reality. The glass frog, named for its astonishing translucent skin, offers one of the most remarkable examples of natural camouflage and biological wonder. When you look at a glass frog, you don't just see its outer surface, you can actually see through it, right down to its beating heart and internal organs, as if its body were made of delicate, shimmering glass. This transparent quality isn't just a quirky trait for show. It's a remarkable adaptation that serves as a powerful defense mechanism against predators. The glass frog's underside is so clear that it helps the animal blend almost perfectly with the leaves and branches it rests on, making it nearly invisible from below. This makes it incredibly difficult for birds, snakes, and other predators that hunt by sight to spot it. But how does this transparency work? Unlike other animals that use pigmentation or patterns to blend in, glass frogs have evolved skin with very little pigment and cells arranged in a way that light can pass through them. The glass frog's skin acts like a natural camouflage filter, allowing it to merge visually with the dappled light of the rainforest canopy. From above, the frog's bright green back helps it blend with the leaves, and from below, the see-through belly obscures its outline against the complex backdrop of foliage and sky. Beyond their captivating appearance, glass frogs have fascinating behaviours that contribute to their survival. These frogs are mostly nocturnal, active at night, when their translucent bodies make them even harder to detect. During the day, they rest on the undersides of leaves, perfectly still, conserving energy and avoiding attention. Their long limbs and adhesive toe pads allow them to cling effortlessly to smooth leaves and branches, positioning themselves in just the right spot to maximize their camouflage. Glass frogs are also known for their distinctive reproductive behaviors. Males typically call to attract females from their leafy perches near streams and rivers, places where glass frogs lay their eggs. Unlike many amphibians that deposit eggs in water, glass frogs lay their eggs on the undersides of leaves hanging over streams. This unique choice protects the eggs from aquatic predators and allows the developing tadpoles to drop safely into the water once they hatch. In some species, the males guard the eggs, a rare form of parental care in frogs. The male stays near the clutch, protecting it from predators like wasps or ants, and keeping it moist by urinating on the eggs during dry conditions. This attentive behaviour greatly increases the chances of the offspring surviving in the challenging environment of the rainforest. Despite their delicate appearance, glass frogs have an important role in the rainforest ecosystem. As both predator and prey, they help maintain the balance of insect populations by feeding on small insects and invertebrates. At the same time, their presence provides food for a variety of birds, snakes, and mammals, fitting them into a complex web of life. Unfortunately, glass frogs face growing threats from habitat loss due to deforestation, pollution, and climate change. As tropical forests are cleared for agriculture or development, the delicate streams and microhabitats glass frogs rely on are destroyed. Conservationists are working to protect these vital habitats and raise awareness about the importance of these translucent amphibians. The glass frog's transparent skin is a vivid reminder that nature often hides its most incredible secrets in the smallest and most unassuming creatures. It challenges our ideas of what it means to be visible and invisible, blending the boundaries between being seen and unseen. The next time you imagine a frog, think of the glass frog, a living window into the hidden, shimmering mysteries of the rainforest. In the sprawling deserts of North Africa and the Middle East, where temperatures soar by day and plummet at night, and where life clings stubbornly to existence amid endless sands, there lives an extraordinary animal uniquely adapted to survive one of the harshest environments on Earth. The camel, often called the ship of the desert, is not only a symbol of resilience and endurance, but also a master of biological innovation. Camels have evolved a remarkable suite of adaptations that allow them to thrive where few other mammals can. One of the most iconic features is their ability to go for long periods without water. While it's a common myth that camels store water in their humps, the truth is far more fascinating. Their humps are actually reservoirs of fat, concentrated energy stores that the camel can metabolize when food is scarce. This fat can be converted into water and energy through metabolic processes, providing the camel with vital resources during long journeys across arid landscapes. The camel's body is a marvel of efficiency designed to conserve water. Their kidneys and intestines are incredibly effective at reabsorbing water, producing urine that is highly concentrated and dry feces to minimize water loss. They can tolerate dehydration up to 25% of their body weight, a level that would be fatal for most other animals. When camels do find water, they can drink vast amounts, up to 40 gallons in one go, replenishing lost fluids quickly and efficiently. Camels also have physiological adaptations to cope with the extreme temperature fluctuations of the desert. Their thick fur insulates them from the intense daytime heat while protecting against the cold nights. They can allow their body temperature to rise during the day, reducing the need to sweat and thereby conserving precious moisture. This remarkable temperature regulation helps camels avoid overheating while minimizing water loss. Their large padded feet are perfectly suited for walking on sand, spreading their weight to prevent sinking and providing stability on shifting dunes. Additionally, camels possess long eyelashes, sealable nostrils, and bushy eyebrows that shield their eyes and noses from sand and dust storms, common and often severe in desert environments. Camels are also social animals, living in herds that help protect individuals from predators and improve survival chances in the harsh environment. Their communication includes a variety of grunts, moans, and bellows, alongside body language such as head tossing and neck arching, to maintain social bonds and coordinate group movement. Historically, camels have played a vital role in human societies, especially for nomadic cultures across the Middle East, North Africa, and Central Asia. They have been indispensable as beasts of burden, transportation, and sources of milk, meat, and wool. Their endurance and strength enabled ancient trade routes like the Silk Road and trans-Saharan caravans, facilitating cultural and economic exchange across continents. Beyond their practical uses, camels have fascinating reproductive and developmental traits. Female camels have long gestation periods, roughly 13 to 14 months, giving birth to calves that are well developed and capable of standing and walking shortly after birth. Essential traits for survival in unforgiving desert terrain. Camel calves nurse for up to a year, gradually transitioning from milk to sparse desert vegetation. The camel's evolutionary history also tells a story of adaptation. Though now associated with deserts, camel ancestors lived in a variety of habitats, including lush forests and grasslands. Their transition to desert life involved dramatic changes in physiology and behavior, making them one of the most specialized mammals on Earth. Today, camels face new challenges as climate change intensifies desert conditions and human development encroaches on their habitats. However, their resilience and adaptability continue to make them invaluable partners for many communities and fascinating subjects of study in understanding survival strategies in extreme environments. The camel story is one of ingenuity and endurance, a living testament to life's ability to flourish even under the most demanding conditions. Its humps, feet, and even eyelashes all tell a tale of survival, shaped by millions of years of evolution in some of the most forbidding places on the planet. The next time you think of the desert, remember the camel, a creature perfectly engineered by nature to thrive where few others dare to tread. Deep within the tropical forests of Southeast Asia and parts of India dwells one of nature's most astonishing creatures, the mimic octopus. Unlike many animals that rely on camouflage to blend into their surroundings, the mimic octopus takes deception to a breathtaking new level by imitating not just its environment, but other animals as well. This remarkable cephalopod has evolved a sophisticated and dynamic form of mimicry that allows it to impersonate a wide variety of marine species, a strategy that not only protects it from predators, but also gives it a distinct edge as a hunter. The mimic octopus, scientifically known as Thormoctopus mimicus, was only discovered relatively recently in the late 1990s. Since then, it has fascinated scientists and marine enthusiasts alike with its ability to change color, texture, and shape to resemble other creatures, such as venomous lionfish, flatfish, sea snakes, and even jellyfish. What makes this mimicry especially remarkable is the octopus's intelligence and ability to select which animal to imitate, depending on the specific threat it faces or the prey it wants to approach. When a predator approaches, the mimic octopus can contort its body and move its arms in ways that replicate the movements and postures of more dangerous animals. For example, it might spread its arms and display stripes like a lionfish, whose venomous spines deter many would-be attackers. In other instances, it might flatten itself against the ocean floor and swim with undulating motions resembling a flatfish, blending in perfectly with the sandy seabed. In more extreme situations, it can even extend two arms that look like the venomous bands of a sea snake, a creature known to most predators as a deadly threat. This ability to imitate multiple species showcases a level of behavioral complexity that few other animals possess. The mimic octopus's body is an artist's canvas of chromatophores, specialized pigment cells that expand or contract to change the animal's coloration almost instantly. This rapid color change, combined with the octopus's control over its skin texture, allows it to adapt its appearance with astonishing speed and accuracy. Whether it's imitating the mottled patterns of a flounder or the flowing tentacles of a jellyfish, the mimic octopus can create an illusion so convincing that it fools both predators and prey. Beyond defense, this mimicry also helps the octopus when hunting. By resembling harmless or uninteresting animals, it can sneak up on prey without raising alarm. This combination of camouflage and deception makes the mimic octopus an expert in both avoiding danger and catching food in the highly competitive and predator-rich environments of tropical reefs and muddy estuaries. The mimic octopus also exhibits impressive intelligence and problem-solving abilities, traits shared by many cephalopods. Studies have shown that octopuses can learn from experience, navigate mazes, and even use tools. This intelligence likely plays a role in their ability to decide which animal to mimic and when, as well as in their overall survival strategies. However, despite its remarkable abilities, the mimic octopus faces threats from habitat destruction, pollution, and human activities such as fishing and coastal development. Like many marine creatures, it depends on healthy coral reefs and estuarine ecosystems, which are increasingly under threat from climate change and environmental degradation. Protecting these habitats is essential not only for the mimic octopus, but for the myriad of other species that rely on these vibrant underwater worlds. The story of the mimic octopus is a vivid example of how evolution can produce extraordinary adaptations through behavior, appearance, and intelligence. Its chameleon-like ability to become many animals at once blurs the boundaries between species and challenges our understanding of survival in the natural world. Watching a mimic octopus glide gracefully across the seabed, shifting shapes and colours in a seamless display of trickery, reminds us of the endless creativity and complexity of life beneath the waves. Next time you imagine the ocean's wonders, picture the mimic octopus, a master illusionist, a brilliant strategist, and a living testament to the power of adaptation and intelligence in the animal kingdom. Deep in the ocean's twilight zone, where sunlight barely penetrates and the pressure is immense, there exists a creature so bizarre and captivating that it seems like something out of a science fiction movie. The anglerfish is a master of survival in one of Earth's most extreme habitats, the deep sea. With its grotesque appearance and eerie bioluminescent lure, the anglerfish embodies the alien mystery and adaptability of life in the darkest ocean depths. The most iconic feature of the anglerfish is its fishing rod, a long, modified dorsal spine that protrudes above its head and ends in a glowing bulb. This bioluminescent lure acts like a glowing beacon in the pitch-black waters, attracting prey closer with its hypnotic light. The anglerfish wiggles this lure to mimic the movements of small creatures, fooling other fish and crustaceans into thinking it's a tempting snack. When an unsuspecting prey comes close enough, the anglerfish strikes with lightning speed, using its enormous mouth lined with sharp, needle-like teeth to snatch the victim in an instant. Living in the deep sea means extreme scarcity of food, and anglerfish have adapted to this challenge with a slow metabolism that allows them to survive long periods without eating. They are opportunistic predators, taking advantage of any meal that drifts close enough, and their expandable stomachs enable them to swallow prey almost as large as themselves. This ability is critical in an environment where meals can be few and far between. Another fascinating and unique aspect of many deep-sea anglerfish species is their bizarre reproductive strategy. In this dark abyss, finding a mate is incredibly difficult, so some male anglerfish have evolved into tiny parasitic partners. After locating a female, The much smaller male attaches himself to her body with his teeth. Over time, he fuses with the female's skin, connecting their circulatory systems. This way, the male becomes essentially a permanent sperm provider, relying on the female for nourishment, while she gains a ready reproductive partner whenever she is ready to spawn. This extraordinary adaptation ensures reproduction in an environment where encounters between males and females are exceedingly rare. Anglerfish are also masters of disguise, often sporting rough textured skin and colours that blend perfectly with the rocky, muddy, and plant-covered ocean floor. This camouflage helps them avoid detection by both predators and prey, further enhancing their ability to survive in such a hostile and competitive environment. Despite their fearsome appearance, anglerfish are a vital part of the deep-sea ecosystem. They help control populations of smaller fish and invertebrates, maintaining a delicate balance in the food web. Studying anglerfish and other deep-sea creatures helps scientists understand how life persists under extreme conditions, revealing the incredible diversity and resilience of Earth's biosphere. The deep ocean remains one of the least explored regions on our planet, and creatures like the anglerfish remind us of the endless mysteries still waiting to be discovered beneath the waves. Their strange forms, eerie lights, and unique adaptations challenge our ideas about what life can look like and how it can survive. The anglerfish is a symbol of the alien beauty of the deep sea, a place where evolution has crafted creatures as fascinating as they are fearsome. The next time you think about the ocean, imagine the dark, cold depths where sunlight never reaches, and where the anglerfish dangles its glowing lure, patiently waiting to capture the next meal in a world both strange and wondrous. In the lush rainforests of Central and South America, amidst the vibrant canopy teeming with life, lives a small but extraordinary creature known as the pistol shrimp. Despite its modest size, this tiny crustacean wields a weapon of astonishing power that sets it apart in the underwater world. The pistol shrimp's claw is a marvel of biological engineering, capable of producing one of the most incredible phenomena in nature. A snap so powerful it creates a cavitation bubble that generates shockwaves and even emits light. The secret to the pistol shrimp's remarkable ability lies in its oversized claw, which it can snap shut at astonishing speeds. When the claw closes, it forces water to move so rapidly that it creates a low-pressure bubble, known as a cavitation bubble. This bubble collapses almost immediately, releasing intense heat, nearly as hot as the surface of the sun, and a shockwave strong enough to stun or even kill small prey. The snap also produces a loud popping sound, earning the pistol shrimp its name. In fact, when many pistol shrimps snap their claws together in unison, the resulting noise can be heard for miles underwater and is one of the loudest biological sounds in the ocean. This incredible snap serves several purposes. Primarily, the pistol shrimp uses it as a hunting tool to stun fish, crabs, and other small creatures, making them easier to catch. The shockwave momentarily disorients or incapacitates the prey, allowing the shrimp to swoop in and feed. Additionally, the snapping serves as a defense mechanism, deterring potential predators with both the shockwave and the startling noise. Beyond its weaponry, the pistol shrimp is known for its unique symbiotic relationships, particularly with certain species of gobies, small bottom-dwelling fish. In this partnership, the shrimp and the goby share a burrow in the sand, which the shrimp diligently maintains and expands. The goby, with its keen eyesight, acts as a lookout, warning the nearly blind shrimp of approaching danger. They communicate through a series of tactile signals, with the shrimp often tapping the goby with its antennae. This cooperative relationship benefits both species. The shrimp gains protection, while the goby enjoys a safe home. The pistol shrimp's claws are not only powerful, but also complex. The snapping mechanism involves a specialized joint and muscle structure that allows for incredible speed and force. Scientists study this natural design to better understand fluid dynamics and develop advanced underwater technologies inspired by the shrimp's snapping claw. Despite its small size, the pistol shrimp demonstrates how evolution can craft extraordinary adaptations to help animals survive and thrive. Its snap is a reminder that nature's ingenuity often lies in unexpected places, and that even the tiniest creatures can wield remarkable power. As you imagine the underwater world, picture the pistol shrimp, a tiny warrior with a claw that packs a punch strong enough to stun prey, create light, and echo through the ocean. Its story highlights the amazing diversity of survival strategies in the animal kingdom, and the intricate connections that bind creatures together in the delicate ecosystems beneath the waves. In the remote and icy waters surrounding Antarctica thrives an animal that has baffled scientists for decades with its extraordinary ability to survive in one of the coldest, most inhospitable places on Earth. The Antarctic icefish is not just remarkable for its resilience in freezing temperatures, but for a truly unique physiological trait that sets it apart from almost all other vertebrates. It has antifreeze proteins in its blood, and astonishingly, it lacks red blood cells and hemoglobin entirely. Most animals rely on hemoglobin, the iron-containing molecule in red blood cells, to carry oxygen through their bloodstream to tissues and organs. Hemoglobin gives blood its red colour and is essential for life in most vertebrates. But Antarctic icefish have evolved to live without this oxygen-carrying molecule, resulting in their blood appearing almost colourless or translucent. This adaptation might seem like a disadvantage, but it is actually a brilliant evolutionary solution to the extreme cold of their environment. The frigid waters around Antarctica often plunge below the freezing point of fresh water, yet remain liquid due to their salt content. For most fish, such temperatures would cause their blood and bodily fluids to freeze, which is lethal. However, the icefish produce special antifreeze glycoproteins that circulate in their blood and tissues, preventing ice crystals from forming and damaging their cells. These proteins bind to tiny ice crystals, stopping them from growing and effectively lowering the freezing point of their body fluids. Living without hemoglobin means that icefish have a lower capacity to transport oxygen, which would be a severe handicap in most environments. But the cold Antarctic waters are rich in dissolved oxygen, allowing the icefish to absorb enough oxygen directly through their skin and gills to survive. Their hearts are also larger and pump blood at a higher volume compared to other fish, compensating for the lack of red blood cells by circulating plasma more efficiently. Their blood is less viscous, which reduces the workload on their circulatory system in the cold environment. The icefish's body is adapted in other ways to this unique lifestyle. Their blood vessels are larger, allowing for greater blood flow, and their metabolism is slower, reducing their overall oxygen demand. They also have a reduced number of red blood cells and smaller spleens, since the production and maintenance of red blood cells is unnecessary. These physiological traits make the Antarctic icefish an extraordinary example of how life can push the boundaries of biological norms to survive. The icefish's strange and specialized biology has fascinated researchers who study evolutionary biology, physiology, and climate adaptation. Understanding how these fish cope with extreme cold and lack of hemoglobin can provide insights into the mechanisms of protein function, oxygen transport, and even medical conditions related to blood and oxygen delivery in humans. Despite their adaptations, ice fish face challenges from changing ocean conditions. Climate change and warming seas threaten the delicate balance of the Antarctic ecosystem, potentially affecting oxygen levels and the habitat these fish depend on. Scientists continue to monitor ice fish populations to learn how these remarkable creatures will fare in a rapidly changing world. The Antarctic ice fish stands as a testament to life's ingenuity, showcasing how evolution can carve out solutions that defy conventional biology. Its clear, almost invisible blood and antifreeze proteins highlight a survival strategy unlike any other vertebrate, illustrating the astonishing diversity of life's adaptations. When you think of animals thriving against the odds, imagine the Antarctic ice fish, a ghostly fish gliding silently beneath the icy waters, defying freezing temperatures with a blood so unique it challenges everything we thought we knew about vertebrate biology.